Let's talk about pop culture today. Jimmy Fallon taking over The Tonight Show, the Olympics, Christian films, pagan films. I don't have any warm bread to serve you, but how about some circuses? This is the voice of resistance.
Standing for truth in the four corners of America. Fighting for justice on the frontiers of the culture wars. And turning resistance into an art form. Randall Terry.
Let's talk about entertainment. Jimmy Fallon has taken over from Jay Leno for The Tonight Show, and he recently hosted his debut on the program. I watched it. I watched the final show of Johnny Carson years ago, watched the final show of Jay Leno a couple weeks ago, and stayed up to watch Jimmy Fallon as he wooed the audience with some of his humor. And he did a very nice, touching opening, talking about his mom and his dad who were there in the audience with him. Talked about growing up in upstate New York, which is also where I grew up, upstate New York, a little further upstate than he did. And had a pretty funny segment where he said, "You know who you are, you owe me $100. And then out marched luminaries like Robert De Niro and Lady Gaga and Rudy Giuliani and Joe Namath and Tina Fey. It was entertaining, finishing off with Stephen Colbert dumping a bucket of quarters on him. I hope that the show does well, and I feel kind of conflicted talking about this because I love entertainment. I love laughing. I love a good story that lifts me up. Many of the stories that I watch make me cry. My children and I, we watched The Hobbit recently and thought it was just a tremendous movie and had great messages throughout about loyalty, about courage. So there is a place for entertainment. There is a place for storytelling. And I'm going to talk about that in our next segment as we look at Christian movies. But Jimmy Fallon said something that just struck me wrong. He said, and I quote, "The whole goal is to live a long life and to go to bed with a smile on your face." Well, I share at least part of that goal. I would like to live a long life. I would love it if God let me be around to see my children's children's children. That would be just wonderful. But the goal is not to go to bed with a smile on our face. The goal is to make it into eternity and be with God in eternal life. That's the goal. And part of the problem that we're facing in America right now, in the entertainment industry particularly, is that there is so much out there that is drawing people away from God. I mean, when I saw Lady Gaga walk out, obviously she's a superstar right now, but she had on a very risque, it would be a polite word, risque outfit. And Jimmy Fallon was talking later on about the fact that his wife and he have a 6-month-old baby daughter. And I was thinking, I mean, Jimmy, do you want your baby daughter to grow up and be like Lady Gaga or Miley Cyrus? Are you going to let your children watch these women? I mean, I know President Obama says that Beyonce is a role model for his daughters. I'm not even sure what that means. I'm not sure what he's hoping his daughters do or become when he says that. But there are a lot of moms and dads out there with broken hearts because their children who they raised to be in the faith took a sharp turn away from the faith. And in many of their lives, those young people were drawn away from the faith by people like Lady Gaga, or, and then fill in the blank. So there's the concept in entertainment of what is age appropriate. I mean, clearly Jimmy Fallon is not going to allow his children to see certain things, even things that he's involved with, until they're older. Bruce Willis made a movie years ago called The Kid. It was a wonderful movie. And he said he made The Kid because he was tired of making films that he wouldn't let his own daughters watch. So he wanted to do The Kid, and it's a great movie. Bring tears to your eyes. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. But it's not just things that are age appropriate, it's things that are appropriate, period. They're not appropriate for people of any age. And I want you to remember, have it in the forefront of your brain. The goal is not to live a long life and go to bed with a smile on your face. The goal is to die in the friendship of God, to have a relationship with Jesus Christ, and to be in a state of grace, to be in a state of salvation, whatever word you want to use. Because this life will be over like that, and the next one will never end. And if people go to bed at night with a smile on their face because of debauched comedy, debauched entertainment, and it is a part of the path that takes them into the next life, into the place where there's weeping and wailing and gnashing of teeth, then none of the smiles on the face were worth it. I'd rather go to bed with a smile on my face and then have an eternity in God's grace. This is the voice of resistance.
You have two choices. I mean, you can try to raise your children by design, or you will raise them by default. There are no perfect parents. We're going to get it wrong sometimes. If we have a plan, we've got a better chance of getting it right in the long run.
There is something deep within the heart of every human being that longs for parental acceptance and approval. When does a boy become a man?
Get a group of guys around and ask them that question.
I don't think there's a certain age. Some men stay boys their whole life.
I would say, 16, 18 years old?
Wow, that's a good question.
When they get bar mitzvah.
Well, I think when he has a child. So I just became at 56, 56 years old.
Without the power of the Holy Spirit changing us and giving us power over our sin, we can't hope to be the dads that our kids need us to be.
It might rankle some of the Hollywood elite, especially the pagan Hollywood elite, but the simple fact is that the Christian buying public and the people who believe in patriotism and conservative family values, they are determining what movies are successful. Movie Guide, put out by, the organization Movie Guide, run by Dr. Ted Baer, who is a prince of a man, by the way, and I highly encourage you to go and check out their website, support them. They released an 80-page report showing that, for example, in the top 25 grossing films, highest grossing films of last year, that the ones that did the best, they averaged $87 million at the box office. They were pro-family. They were not filled with sex. They were not filled with illicit relationships and nudity. Some of them had very warm references to our Lord Jesus Christ. Films like Iron Man 3, great theme of redemption. Man of Steel, which in many ways was a type of Christ. And then there's that incredible scene where Superman is in the church and you see Jesus praying in the Garden of Gethsemane. These are the films that prevailed at the box office. And other films that were seedy, like Grown Ups 2, and We're the Millers, they averaged $21 million at the box office. So good family entertainment, good references to God and to family, and respect for human sexuality, they outdrew money 4-1. And I want to encourage you, if you do like movies or books, I want to encourage you to understand why we are that way. In fact, let me say this. think of sermons that you've heard, sermons in churches, and then think back at how many stories you can remember the preacher telling. You might not remember what the sermon was about, but that story that he told you stuck in your head. And I'm not sure if it's because there's a different part of our gray matter that remembers. I'm not sure if it's because it's literally the way God wired us in our soul. But think through the scriptures, the book of Judges, 1st and 2nd Samuel, 1st and 2nd Kings, 1st and 2nd Chronicles. They're narratives. They're stories. If I said to you what's in 1 Samuel chapter 17 right now, chances are you wouldn't know. But you know the story. David killing Goliath with a slingshot. Jesus said that we're supposed to become like little children. And every child loves a good story. Stories that have a message. What's the moral of the story? Aesop's fables. I mean, go down the list. You will see that stories are a critical part of the human experience, starting with the book of Genesis. And I'm going to make one other little point about movies and stories. All stories are found in seed form from Genesis chapter 1 to Genesis chapter 4. All of it is right there. And you have the true story, and then you have the lie. And you even have that in Genesis 1 to 4, when the lie being, of course, when the serpent came and lied to Eve about the fruit from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. You have love in Genesis 1 to 4. You have God. You have redemption. You have forgiveness. You have murder, jealousy. It's all there. And so all stories are based upon the true story of Genesis chapter 1 through 4. And then the question is it based upon the true story in that it promotes truth and beauty and love and redemption? Or does it promote lies and death and murder? I want good stories. And I encourage you, again, go to Movie Guide, check out Ted Baer, and if you are a moviegoer, keep voting with your pocketbook, because as much as it rankles the Hollywood elite, they're actually going to create better movies with more redemptive, wholesome, holy themes, because guess what? They care about money. Do you want to have knowledge, wisdom, discernment? If so, you have to read good books on theology, history, books that look at the lives of great men and women. So to help you to become a more effective Christian, a better witness for truth, somebody who can engage in productive conversation that exhorts and edifies those that you speak with, we're going to do something crazy. We're offering you these 7 books for a gift of any size. You just pay for the shipping and handling, and then give whatever gift that you can, and we will send them to you. But just to make it a little bit more crazy, I will send you a second copy of my 3 books, autographed. You can give them as a gift to your pastor or to a family member and help extend truth and justice in the world. This is while supplies last. Is nothing holy? Is nothing sacred? Did you see the commercial that Honda ran during the Olympics? I'm sure they ran it all over the place. Play the commercial.
80 many years ago.
80 a deal with you.
Oh yeah, massive deal.
Who's your founding father?
Get a rear view camera.
I see you, baby.
Bluetooth. Talking about the red, white, and blue too.
Great deals and features come standard on our most popular Honda models.
All right, obviously that's kind of clever, but I don't know, my wife and I were talking about this morning. Why does this commercial bug me so much? I think part of it is that most people don't even know who the 16th president was. All right? There are people who, if you used Martin Luther King, okay, there's a holiday named after Martin Luther King, all right? If you used King, had somebody dress up like Martin Luther King and do a song, a rap song, and say, come and buy a car, do you think people would be offended? I do. All right, enough. A study of the presidents is a good thing. The things that George Washington and Abraham Lincoln did for us. I just don't know. Poor Abraham Lincoln was assassinated, and now he's selling Hondas. All right, moving along to the Olympics. Did you know that the Winter Olympics introduced 12 new competitions this year? 12! And the reason they did it is for money, for viewers. It's pretty naked, the truth is, at least. In the Winter Olympics 4 years ago, the average age of the viewer was over 50 years old. And that means that the companies that want to sell ads during the Olympics, which this year, if my memory is correct, the number tops $2 billion worldwide is being spent on advertising during the Olympics. And the Olympic Committee gets some of that money. I mean, there's just exorbitant sums of money being exchanged, okay? But young people drive the economic engine of a lot of families. If a kid sees a certain ad, they'll say, Mom and Dad, can we go do this? Or a young person, whether it's food, whether it's the latest gadget. And they can't advertise to kids if the kids aren't watching. So they created all of these new competitions with the express desire of bringing young people in. In other words, our circuses aren't cool enough. Now, there is a place for sports. There's a good place. You learn a lot about team spirit if there's a team. If it's an individual sport, you have to master it. You have to have self-discipline. You have to push yourself when no one else is pushing you. And Paul talked about, I don't fight as one who beats the air. You know, the scriptures talk about running the race, having endurance. So there's a place for it. But I felt sad that the Olympics were being more altered than at any point since the game started again in the early 1900s. They have introduced more new events this year than at any point in the history of the Olympics, specifically for money. So, I don't know why I'm talking so much about pop culture today, but it does matter. It matters because it's happening all around us. And there's a passage in the scriptures that talk about the men of Issachar who were familiar with the times and knew what Israel should do. We have to be familiar with our times in order to know what we should do, how we can become the voice of resistance and prevail. I'll be right back. Do you want to get America out of the hands of wicked and unjust men and women who are destroying the republic before our eyes, and put leadership back into the hands of righteous men and women so that we don't die as a nation? Well, you're talking about social revolution, and there are rules in social revolution. We can look at the victorious social revolutions of the past, such as the end of slavery, the end of child labor, women's voting rights, the end of segregation, and so much more, and learn from their victories. Look at their actions, their images, their rhetoric, their sacrifices, and their final fruit. We will send you this series that originally cost $129, 7 books for students, 1 teacher's guide, if you'll give a gift of any size and just pay for shipping and handling. Take advantage of it today. Let me leave you with this exhortation. Finally, brothers and sisters, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things. There is a place for storytelling. There is a place, an important place for the arts. And I want to encourage you, if you have small children, to invest in their artistic future. All right? There has been a lot of discussion in the last 10, 20 years about how schools, public schools, government schools, have cut back in their art departments and in their music departments. I mean, when I was in the government school system as a little boy, we actually had music classes that taught us rhythm, that taught us how to read notes. The concept of a good education was that you had to have music. And we had art class every day at some points. And it wasn't just doodling. I mean, we made things, we painted things, we drew things, we learned about dimensions. And you don't have that anymore. So now, my wife and I, we pay for an art teacher. We pay for a piano teacher and guitar teacher because we want our children to grow up with an appreciation of art, an appreciation of music, but not just, the ability to play a record, but the ability to pick up a guitar and to play at the campfire, or to sit down at the piano and play Christmas hymns, or to just be able to entertain themselves. The joy of being able to pick up an instrument or sit at a piano and to play and to sing and to make up a song or to play a song that someone else wrote. I mean, it's really almost invaluable. And it is a part of what is right and what is pure and what is lovely and what is praiseworthy. And I want to also invite you to be a part. We are growing. Our show is growing. All right, we're on over 100 stations right now around the country, and there's literally tens of thousands of people that are watching us online. So we want to invite you, if you're interested in filmmaking, little short clips, if you've got something that you want to show, send it to us. Send us a link. If it's good, we'll put it on the air. I mean, be a part of the journey with us on the artistic side. Lane can't do everything. I mean, it shouldn't always fall on my and his shoulders. Why don't you help? Email us at staff@voiceofresistance.com. Staff@voiceofresistance.com. And if you've got something that you think might be ready for primetime television on this program, send it to us. If it's good, give us permission, we'll use it. We are, in America right now, being overrun with bad entertainment. And part of the reason, not the only reason, part of the reason is because it has held such little value in the Christian community. But we can change that. We can put more value on it on the creative side and break out of our Christian ghettos, all right? And I don't mean to be unkind when I say that, but to really pursue excellence in a medium, in an art area, in filmmaking, in short films, in music, to pursue excellence and to encourage it in our children that show giftings in those areas. You can't fight something with nothing, okay? So whether it's in the political realm or in the business realm or in education or in medicine or in the arts or in pop culture, part of the reason why we're being overrun is because there is a group of people that take it all very seriously and they're using it for their agenda. And if more of us will take it seriously and use it for our agenda, I'm here to tell you, and Movie Guide already showed it, that good will prevail over evil. We just have to field an army and fight. This is the voice of resistance. you.